Hi, I'm Dave,
And I'm Tyler,
and
and
this
this
is the
is the
Capcom
Capcom
Show.
Show. Alright, so we decided to do an episode along that we record with our main episode every month. For this sole purpose of just giving you guys more content, maybe uploading them bi weekly or once a week, just depends on whenever we get the episodes in. I don't know. Um,
It really depends on when we can get together.
yeah, we are going to try to at least put out one episode or one set of episodes every month. But I know myself, May is going to be really difficult for me, as I have a wedding, specifically my wedding that month. So it's going to be really difficult. Some months we won't be able to. Other months, we might be able to make up for lost time. It all just depends. Plus, we live in the north, so there's this wonderful thing that falls in the sky every now and then called snow. It kind of looks like cocaine, but it's not.
It's not doesn't come with the benefits.
Doesn't come with the benefits. But the whole point of this segment is to kind of have a relax on as we don't want to always come off as serious. We want to kind of joke around and have fun with this because in the end this is an idea that both of us have that we want to have fun with. And one of our growing things right now is let's do a segment, maybe half an hour long or whatever, on current events that have been happening in the last month. So I guess this is our take one of it, and yeah, we have our own list too.
This today is December 6th, 2019. So the first thing I probably want to talk about is the whole whiskey warrior thing. So there's an Instagram username Whiskey Warrior 556. He's a Army vet and in New York, and all the details about this case and what actually happened are still up for debate. We don't. There's a lot of just
A lot of
discrep-
it's been kind of
it's a lot of it
misconstrued.
misconstrued, and it's a lot of it is just hearsay. And there's very little actual solid evidence that we can go off. The original story was essentially, at least this is what I saw roaming around on Facebook and Instagram originally. This was the story I was originally told, which was he got red flagged. He essentially got thrown under the bus from another vet who told the cops that he had PTSD and had an episode or something like that, essentially. And so the cops like prevented him from going home while he was at work. When he was at work, they went to his house where his wife and his newborn baby was, essentially, and they threatened her with CPS and taking the child away if she didn't let him in. And so she did, and they took all his guns except the 30-round magazines he had. I'm assuming they didn't know that he had the magazines or they dismissed him. Whatever. And so then he comes back, and his wife and the child are gone, and he starts posting videos on Instagram about it. And the cops show up again because they need to get his magazines, and he won't let them in, and he's wearing his vest on and everything. And that's when all the feed and posts about what's going on, him standing off on Instagram and Facebook. And so this whole thing just blew up. If you were following it, you know. I think his Instagram account went from like 10,000 to like over 100,000.
Yeah,
It was crazy how much exposure this got in a very short amount of
yeah.
time.
And one of the things that from what I heard is when it first came out and you started sending me all these links to this, I got excited, but I couldn't read any of them because I was with my fiance at the time, and but for, I woke up the next morning and a lot of it kind of settled. And from what I was gathering was is that yes, he did have PTSD from his time serving in the military. From what I gathered, from what I read, like I only was on this topic for maybe 2 days before I was over it. Um, it just seemed like it just seemed like an ordinary uh gun person in America these days. Which I'm fine if there are more gun people out there who could be, more against cops. I am fucking a-okay with that. That is, you're a friend to me. But it was there was the mention of PTSD, and from the story that I heard was that he had an episode, and the cops were called resulting after that episode. Like there wasn't any mention of him, at his job. I believe your story might be the one that's more true. I may have because mine is just pieced together.
Well,
so
yeah, there's a lot of hearsay though that do support the fact that of him having episodes of threatening his wife,
yes,
and everything
which,
like that, and which is possible true, except almost like all of
there
it is
would have been something that she probably would have came out and said something about it.
That's the thing, is that we have no, as of right now, there is no open statement from the wife about what has actually happened in case of whether he has actually had PTSD and has threatened her and has been violent before and he's got history of this, or where the other first story that I heard was true, in which they were fine and he just got red flagged and essentially she got threatened with CPS and all that stuff. So there's two sides to this. There are two main stories that could have happened, but neither of us have
any clue. And I feel like that's
what's true.
I feel like that's just everyone in general that's involved.
Yeah, and
no one has any idea of what's going on.
Exactly. And so essentially, they took him into custody the first time that night after 7-hour, 8-hour standoff, and he got bailed out. And so while he was out, he did talk to a few people online and say that the rumors or hearsay about him being violent and threatening his wife, and then breaking and entering into his in-laws' house, he was claiming that it wasn't true, and so
that's new to me right now because I didn't hear about that part.
Oh yeah, I saw a screenshot of him talking to someone else where he claims this, because he was going to come on a podcast. I can't remember which podcast at the time, or it was. I can't remember the name of it. But he was going to come on a podcast and explain everything of what actually happened, because everyone's like still in the dark about the whole night. And then, from my understanding, his bail got revoked, and so the cops came and took him back into custody for the same charges, is my understanding. And
did they?
Yes.
I got a quick question about that. Did they at least refund the money from the bail? Do we know?
That I have no idea.
Or are we just assuming that they probably didn't, because that's just that's just how Uncle Sam does his business.
I was gonna say I wouldn't expect that money back.
Yeah,
to be honest,
that money probably just as soon as it entered the system disappeared in the Department of Justice pocket.
I would not doubt it. Although, side note, this is hilarious. There was a time, or like during this whole incident that night, it's called Putnam County Sheriff's Department.
Yes.
Yeah, they shut off their Facebook page for a few hours, I think at least. And in that meantime, someone else made another page with the same name and everything, and now is just epically trolling the department. It's hilarious, and it's amazing because that page almost has as much likes as the actual county page, which is hilarious.
I always enjoy when the internet gets to memeing, and especially when the ones that they're like the butt of the joke are, like politicians or especially police departments. I fucking enjoy that.
Oh yeah, the butt of any joke in the government is just it's hilarious.
It becomes fun. Lately also speaking of the whole meme thing, is Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. That has been my number one go-to for like the last month. It's starting to die off for me, but
it's been going on for so long, and especially seeing those posts though. It starts off with some random historical thing,
yeah,
and then at the end it's just like Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself,
or like they're doing some controversial shit. Like I've seen something where like the way I thought it was going to be was like it was about trans identity and stuff. And I'm like, it's probably just gonna be one of those memes where it's just like a boomer meme, where it's just like, or birds of a piece, ghosts have a vagina kind of thing. And it's like, but deep down, everyone knows that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And I'm just like, yes!
I know, that was
I'm
awesome.
like, I had low expectations for this, and now I am glad I had low expectations for this.
Anyway, so that Whiskey Warrior thing was definitely big. Happened almost a month ago. It was like 3 weeks ago. I can't give the dates off the top of my head. I don't remember.
But and then speaking of cops being incompetent or just downright assholes, we have pretty recently was the UPS shooting, right?
Yep. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I can't remember where exactly this was at. I'm having a mental block. Anyway, so what essentially happened was UPS driver was doing his job delivering packages and everything, and he got his van with all his packages and everything got stolen, and he was still in it though. So they were kind of holding him as hostage.
Oof. That's just bad luck for him.
I know, right? And so the cops started chasing him and everything. They got onto the freeway, and traffic came to a stop, and so they stopped. And what the cops did is that they got out of their vehicles, started shooting, but they were using civilian cars with civilians in them as cover while they're shooting at the FedEx or the UPS truck. And they did end up shooting and killing the guy that was the UPS driver, the innocent, and they killed another civilian, I believe. And
I just did a quick look. It was in South Florida. They didn't name
Florida.
a city. Brewer County, I believe. I'm not familiar with South Florida. I've only been there once, and that was for Disney World. So like that was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Brewer County, I know. I feel like I should know that. By the way, speaking of cops in Florida, there's a meme that just kind of surfaced today, and I am not at all condoning it. Not at all. Legally wise, I feel like I should distance myself from it, but I am urging people to not look up George Zimmerman's address or phone number that may or may not be publicly advertised around Facebook currently. Accurate to about 4 or 5 hours ago from when we're recording this. I'm not advocating for people to maybe bug him about the fact that he killed an innocent human being in cold blood and got away with it. I don't feel like that'd be
who's now suing the victim's mother.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we might just want to leave him alone and not at all bother this man at all with the information that we can now get. I'm saying we should not throw a brick through his window or maybe a pipe bomb or some sort. Maybe not a pipe bomb because that could actually incriminate me, but you get the gist of it. Don't do
anything rash.
Or just don't mention us.
Yeah. But side note, this is from both of us. Fuck him. He's
entirely.
This is there is,
but
all the data, not data. Sorry, from everything I've read about this, there is still no reason that George Zimmerman had any justification on shooting Trayvon Martin.
His only justification is he was the wrong color.
Yeah, wrong color and suspicious looking. Pulling a fucking bag of Doritos.
Bag of Doritos with Skittles.
And Skittles.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck, dude?
He was, and funny thing is, I'll let you speak for a second. Funny thing is I actually had a friend of mine who lives down in I want to say the Tampa Bay area actually, and they were walking home. I believe I told you about this earlier.
Yeah, you did.
I'm just repeating it for the sake of the podcast. They were walking home. They work at a local Applebee's, and they were walking home after a closing shift. And they were walking through a neighborhood dressed in black clothes. They're a kind of goth person. Fucking awesome human being, by the way. I love all my interactions with them. They had a cop actually hit on them on the way. Like they think that that's the whole thing that went down with them. But I said when they posted this, I mentioned that it's because they were white that they had this interaction, because I had in my mind, I had Trayvon Martin in the back of my mind with
Yep.
this, because he was wearing a black hoodie, and he was a black man walking in a neighborhood past sundown, and he paid with his life for, walking where I'm guessing he shouldn't have walked.
Yeah, really.
So, that, and I feel like that when people say that white privilege doesn't exist, I feel like that would be the main driving force behind it. Is my friend was white and she got away with her life. She even got hit on instead of being shot. That's like spectrum here, other end here, kind of thing. So, but yeah, his information's out there.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And if you want to do something about it, that's entirely up to you.
We did not convince you in any way.
Exactly. We're just letting you know.
But if you get it
out there, if you want it,
if you get it on film, do not be afraid to tag us so that we can watch. Because I just want to be horrified as I'm watching this, such a display of chaos and beauty. I mean destruction. That's the word I'm looking for.
You stand corrected.
Yeah. And then what else did we have on the list?
The last thing I just recently saw earlier today is also in New York. This is from couriercountry.com. I only have a screenshot of it. I don't have the actual article up with me. But they are going to try to outlaw homeschooling because East Aurora has reported seeing a 56% rise in homeschooling. So, and this is partly due to vaccines, but
partly due to
yeah, so I don't know about all the viewers here. I am definitely a big proponent of homeschooling because I'm definitely against state indoctrination.
State indoctrination.
State indoctrination camps. And,
yep. Public schooling does a great job of it. I am very against Common Core, by the way, because I have high functioning autism, and as a kid growing up, it was mostly came across as ADHD because the symptoms that I have of both are they're very close by. They're very easy to mistake one for the other, and especially with my case. And Common Core is one of those things where it's like, if you are neurodivergent, get fucked.
Exactly.
Sincerely, Uncle Sam.
You're screwed.
They have ways of helping you, but that's special ed. And special ed is, hey, we see that you have trouble with learning things. We're seeing that you have trouble with, certain other things that, we're not going to help you. We're just going to make you feel special. It's pretty much your basic participation trophy, and it's disgusting. But Common Core is irrelevant. It's useless. It doesn't prepare people to be adults. It prepares them to be sheep.
Yeah, supposedly it's supposed to, from what I've heard from people who are, I guess, proponents of it, they claim it's to help kids engage in different forms of critical thought in terms of reaching the same conclusion.
That's
what I've been told by multiple people. And
Common Core is supposed to do that?
That's what I've been told. And I'm just like, that's a waste of fucking time, because that's not something that's applicable, I would say.
I feel like a lot of people are lacking in the critical thinking department. Although then again, from what I've seen from my own job working in the factory, I've noticed that a lot of the older people all are not exactly, I just stumbled my way through that sentence, but I don't care. They're not exactly firing on all cylinders, and I don't know, maybe they might be right with Common Core being able to treat or teach better critical thinking.
But I don't think that's the right kind of critical thinking.
No, it's the kind of thinking that is like, this means this, because the thing about it is, and again, especially me with my identity politics, I've actually had this discussion. My best man and I came to blows. I believe it was last night. because he thought that he was going to get enlightened or have the big brain approach on. Keep in mind, I do a lot of studying of psychology and neuroscience, and he decided to come at me with, I know more about transgender politics and stuff than you do, which was a lie because he's in university for broadcasting, for sports broadcasting and stuff. He's not in there for
anything related
to
psychology.
neurobiology. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, meanwhile, I have people who've gone through the courses and they tell me the science of it, and the science makes sense about it. So and that's the whole thing with Common Core right there. Is Common Core teaches people this is how things are, this is how things always have been, this is how things always will be. And then when they get into university, which doesn't, a lot of times they're private, so they don't run off Common Core at all. And now we have the issue that we have today, whereas everyone realizes that they have been lied to in some degree by their own education system. And I feel like that ties back into the state indoctrination, because you can't have people running around with different thought process than what the state wants us to think.
Exactly. There's a reason argument I heard earlier. It's like, there's no. We both agree that food is really important, right? But there's no interest in, food wise, what you really put into your body in regards to the state. State doesn't give a crap if you stick a green pepper in your stomach. You know what I mean?
Right.
They definitely care about putting ideas in your brain.
Yep.
That's definitely what they care about.
Yep. But I don't mind for homeschooling. I will say, if I had to take a point for it, I am against it. The only reason why is because there's the obvious that anyone who has parents or family members or whatever that can do homeschooling, that have certain, you have to remain apolitical with it. You can't engage with, you can't put your simple viewpoint on an education system, because that's what we get with with the public education system now.
Exactly.
Especially, I don't want to always be alluding to the boogeyman of, especially for people like me, fascists, but white supremacy is still alive and still a thing that we all have to remember exists, has existed, and will exist until it's either defeated or wins. It's a very, very stubborn ideology. But it's something that, if homeschooling is allowed to run rampant, it can become prevalent.
The problem is when it can't. See, the thing is, you don't need a state to have indoctrination. You can have parents indoctrinate their own kids.
And I know you're going to hate me for saying this because you're a Christian, but religion tells us one way of indoctrination is just.
It definitely.
It is.
It
can be. I'm not. Of course, I'm not saying myself. I'm an atheist, but I don't fault people for their beliefs and that stuff. I don't. So long as it's more of a personal thing, like,
yeah.
I always looked at it as a way of, if someone who is like, someone who lives an, I'm not going to say immoral or bad, but in other ways worthless life, I guess. And then say, like, they find religion and it helps them out. It makes them a better person. They have a change of heart with it. That I am all for, because now that person is contributing to the society in some way that is beneficial for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had to engage in something that I don't typically agree with, but it helps them. It doesn't hurt me at all. Yeah. I don't care anymore. That if it helps them be a better person, it helps them be a better person. What I do have a problem with it, though, is when people say we shouldn't let people get abortions, we shouldn't let gays get married, because it offends my rights. It offends, yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. There are the Christian status.
Yes.
Those are, oh my gosh.
Those
definitely have their problems. I will say that. That'll probably be
its own episode in the future, because oh man, I'm going to have fun with that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic right there. But In terms of current events, that's all we got
No.
for today.
Didn't you say that was because of the whole vaccination thing too?
The article about the homeschooling was mentioned vaccination. The actual title of this article is New York Vaccine Police State Proposed Mandatory Gardasil Vaccine to Target Homeschoolers, question mark.
That doesn't sound biased at all.
Yeah.
That does not sound biased at all.
Well, I mean, this one is from vaccineimpact.com.
Oh yeah, that's
So you
that
know
is
that's gotta have some bias to it.
man, no, that is a complete level-headed source. Yeah, the whole thing about that is just fucking stupid.
All we will say is forced vaccination is definitely immoral and wrong. That's a rights violation.
It can be a rights violation. However, though, we should still encourage people to get vaccinated because
I think it depends. Get what vaccine that you have researched and studied that you believe is beneficial to your
Yes.
child. I would say to probably go in too much into this should be another episode.
Yeah.
There's
it shouldn't have to be.
But not every vaccine is bad, immoral, and like is gonna do harm to you. Not every vaccine is like that. But also not every vaccine is the safe haven beneficial thing that's gonna save your life. You know what I mean? And so, and I will say, I think where all of us would agree with is that there needs to be more research, more objective research into vaccines. We can all be in favor of that. More research is necessary.
I'm always in favor of more research of anything.
Always for research.
Myself, I am very fine with how vaccines are. I've always funny thing is I for the first time in my life, or at least in a long time, this year is my first year I've ever gotten the flu vaccine. And so far I'm in a pretty good. I haven't gotten fucking sick all year. And it's like knock on wood kind of shit because now that I said that I'm gonna be fucking holiday season comes up and I'm gonna be sick as hell. But
I've only had the vaccine, the flu vaccine, I think maybe 2 winters. And I generally don't get sick in the winter.
I usually forgo it because I don't like needles as much, but I'm starting to become more used to them. So it helps when your appendix explodes. That fucking helped out a lot because it's like I used to hate hypodermic needles and everything, like stuff that used to draw blood. Man, IVs, that's something else, dude. That's a fucking thick one that they put in.
Oh, I've heard those are terrible.
They collapsed 3 of my veins and ended up. I had it in my left hand, like right here, like right around one of my fingers. That's when they finally got it in. After like 9 or 10 tries, at one point, I had so much adrenaline running through my body. They couldn't stop my veins from collapsing, and my legs were actually tired. I was laying down, keep in mind. Mm-hmm. My legs were actually tired because of how much I was shaking. Because I was just on raw adrenaline through my veins.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it was definitely a fun time that night. Fun time. I got introduced to morphine, and oh boy.
Yeah, fun time indeed.
I'm sitting like, it can't be too bad. I've smoked weed before. How bad could it be? And they're like, we're gonna give you 4 milligrams of morphine. I'm just like, bitch, please. I've had edibles that are stronger. Oh, what? Did you say something? I'm fucking out like a light. Like I remember I looked at my dad and said, my neck feels heavy, and then I passed out. Woke up, they're wheeling me to my inpatient room, and then passed out again and woke up at like 8 o'clock sitting in my bed, just like...
What a trip.
Like, I'm like, all right, I understand why this stuff is addictive, because holy shit, this is amazing. But, I believe that will tie up our almost half hour episode of like doing current event stuff. We're probably gonna do these like I said at the beginning, in conjunction with our normal monthly episode that we're going to try to get. And usual thing, if you like what you hear, donate. We're probably gonna be working on getting a Patreon up sometime here soon in the next couple months. That way we can kind of like give you guys insight as to what we're doing, what we're planning and stuff. That way we don't have to keep using Facebook for it.
Yeah, and by all means, if you have topics that you want addressed, that you want us to talk about,
tell us.
Oh yeah, comment, send us a message.
Because a lot of, again, like as you heard, we've already came up with 2 ideas for episodes, and sometimes those don't go through all the way because we'll talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and we get to a point where like we almost have the same fucking thing, so we can't turn it into an hour-long episode, but we could always, even if it's not a big topic and you want us to talk about it, tell us.
Hey, we can do an episode of just addressing different comments.
Yeah,
and
we could
responses that
always
get.
Because believe it or not, like I don't just show up, we don't just show up at each other's house and like just do this and then leave. I believe I got here at like 5:30 and it's 9 o'clock right now. And like
Yeah,
we went out, we got food, we talked about what we want to do with the podcast. We sat there trying to jury rig a fucking.
Yeah, one of our microphone stands broke, and I tried jury rigging it, and it just broke even worse. I got glue all over the floor. And so I was like, screw this, I'm just going to buy another microphone. So ordered and waiting for it to come in the mail.
Yeah, I mean,
so if you're wondering why the microphone I'm using is actually a smaller microphone, so that's why my voice on this podcast
he sounds so far away.
Is smaller, or I'm sorry, smaller. It's quieter than Tyler's because he has a bigger microphone. Tee-hee.
All right, after that one, I feel like that's a sign off right there. So
that's a wrap.
Yeah, we're guess you'll hear us on the next episode that we're probably gonna be doing here in the next 5 minutes. We're gonna start. So oh boy, it's gonna be on property rights and ownership.
Yep.
Rip.
Rip. Have a good night.